Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing. Topping our newscast, Juan Luis Hospital is going through a kind of personnel crisis, especially in its emergency department. They lost a couple of physicians recently, and according to reports, it's affecting the performance of the staff and the service to patients. Juan F. Luis, however, refuted such effects in a recent statement. News 2's April Knight has more.
People are getting worried about a couple of resignations at the Juan Luis Hospital's emergency room, and among them Senator Kenneth Gittens. According to Gittens' office, 2 physicians resigned their posts in the past few days, resulting in severe staffing shortages and lack of patient coverage.
I was concerned primarily because this not only affects the attention that can be given to each patient, but it also affects the workload of other support staff and creates a trickle-down effect of burnout and low morale amongst them all. We need to get focused and increase the number of permanent physicians on rotation.
Gittens visited the hospital on Wednesday when he heard the news. He said the doctors who resigned pointed to long work hours and non-competitive pay.
Working in the emergency room is already a very high-stressed assignment. We are compounding the stress levels of the physicians when they are put in these types of situations where they have to work more than their usual 12-hour shifts on a regular basis and at salaries that are simply not attractive enough to keep them here.
In spite of these concerns, acting Juan Luis CEO Richard Evangelista was quick to respond, saying that the quality of care and the services in the emergency room were not affected nor interrupted by the resignations. According to Evangelista, they're in the process of hiring more physicians to fill the ER. In the meantime, other medical staff from JFL as well as staff from the Frederiksted Healthcare Center are stepping in. Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
We will update you on any improvements in the situation, particularly on any progress by the hospital in finding replacements for the 2 physicians. Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett says the Federal Oversight Board option does nothing to address existing inequities or promote sustainable growth in the territories. The PROMESA bill that Congress will consider this week, she said, is not the bill the White House wanted. It is not the bill Puerto Rico wanted, and it does not address the fundamental disparities faced by the territories that forced excessive borrowing. Many are supporting this bill because the debt crisis in Puerto Rico, she says, threatens the shutdown of its government and default on its obligations to Wall Street investors. An amendment is being discussed to address Treasury's concerns and protect the territory's interests and painstakingly developed credit. She said we should, however, continue to support Puerto Rico's immediate crisis and press Congress to adopt the president's roadmap for congressional action as the starting point to address historic inequities and create real tools for sustainable growth. Count to keep you updated. The government's hiring of a Virgin Islands law firm in 2004 to represent the territory in the South Shore contamination lawsuit is under fire. According to a recently released Inspector General's report, the government did not follow all competitive procurement laws and that it entered into expensive contract with the law firm. The report also found that the law firm was allowed to take control of the litigation process with no means in place for the Department of Justice to monitor its actions. Of the $27 million in settlement amounts from 3 settlement agreements, the law firm also claimed more than $17 million in fees without any substantiation of the amount by the Department of Justice. The Inspector General also said the firm violated the compensation terms of the contract by withholding funds. These are only some of the findings of the Inspector General included in a detailed report. The Inspector General's office does agree that the firm did provide a service to the government and that it should be compensated a fair and reasonable fee and reimbursed for reasonable and allowable expenses. After a 6-day trial on June 8th, a federal jury on St. Croix convicted Damian Lang Sr., 37, of conspiracy to commit bank robbery. Lang faces a maximum penalty of 5 years and 20 years. On September 2nd, 2014, Lang and another individual entered the Bank of St. Croix in Gallows Bay, Christiansted, wearing hoodies and masks. He jumped the teller counter with a plastic bag and took cash from the till of several tellers. The other individuals stood guard at the door with a gun pointed at the employees. They both ran out of the bank and into a stolen Chevy Equinox that they abandoned in a nearby lot. A bill that's aimed at nailing down a residency requirement for voting in the Virgin Islands received lots of impassioned input at the Senate on Thursday. Before the Senate Rules Committee, testifiers gave their take on why the residency bill should or should not move forward. NEWS2's April Knight has that story.
The Senate Rules and Judiciary Committee met on St. Croix on Thursday, tackling a bill that aimed to solidify certain requirements in current election laws. Bill number 31-0356 would change Title 18, so it states specifically that a person has to be a resident of the Virgin Islands in order to be eligible to vote.
Individuals are able to jump in and out here in the territory and whatnot, and we need to just tighten up our belts so that we can make sure that things are a bit more on the straight and narrow with our election system.
The residency requirement has been at the center of some high-profile court cases, particularly one involving John Yob, who ran for Republican delegate and won in spite of having been in the territory for a short amount of time. In a rare occasion, the VI Republican Party was represented at the hearing.
Regardless of what this bill, if it's enacted, may say, what do you do in the circumstance if the chief law enforcement officer refuses to prosecute violations or alleged violations of election law? So I think there's an issue with enforcement.
Lennox himself came under fire, having been a resident of the territory for barely 3 months.
This is a game these people play here all the time. Only one domicile a person under the revised Organic Act can have. You can't fly in here and they here 3 weeks and say domicile. How you gonna get at work? Well, if you're domiciled for 3 weeks, then you can run for governor.
If approved, the changes in the bill would take effect in 2018. Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
On Saturday, June 4th at approximately 10:33 p.m., St. Thomas police responded to reports of shot fired in the Anna's Retreat area near the Holy Family Church. Here's this week's Crime Stoppers.
Upon arrival on the scene, police made contact with two victims identified as 21-year-old Shaki Alexander and 19-year-old Kervin Joseph. A preliminary investigation revealed that both victims were walking in the area of Anna's Retreat when an unknown vehicle drove by and started firing shots, striking Mr. Alexander and Mr. Joseph multiple times. Both victims succumbed to their injuries. If you have any information regarding to this investigation, you can call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIPS or www.crimestoppersvi.org. That's 1-800-222-TIPS Crime Stoppers, or the free mobile app at www.p3tips.com.
A big move toward Democratic Party unity as President Obama plays the role of unifier-in-chief in a White House meeting with Bernie Sanders and makes his endorsement in the 2016 race. Meanwhile, top GOP officials meet with Donald Trump to talk fundraising and other topics amid some concerns about a recent controversy. Karen Kaffa has details from Washington.
The Democrats enter a new phase in the presidential race. In a video released by Hillary Clinton's campaign, President Obama makes his endorsement.
In fact, I don't think there's ever been someone so qualified to hold this office.
The endorsement came shortly after the president met one-on-one with Bernie Sanders for more than an hour with no aides involved. Sanders said he'll keep campaigning ahead of the D.C. primary next Tuesday, but made clear his chief political foe is no longer Hillary Clinton.
I look forward to meeting with her in the near future to see how we can work together to defeat Donald Trump.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump's controversial comments about a federal judge continue to rankle Republicans. Former presidential candidates Scott Walker and John Kasich both said they may withhold their endorsements. House Speaker Paul Ryan, who endorsed Trump last week, told a Wisconsin radio station it is a distraction.
Do I think that these kinds of antics are distracting and give us a campaign that we cannot be proud of? Yeah, I've spoken very clearly about it. But I think and hope and believe that he can fix this.
At a Capitol Hill meeting of Trump supporters, Newt Gingrich said it's been a learning experience for the candidate.
The first time you get to be a presidential candidate, which is a different league, not just running for the nomination, but you're actually the nominee. It's a much tougher league.
Trump spent part of the day meeting with top party fundraisers in New York as some on Capitol Hill fret about what the top of the GOP ticket will mean for them. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
Meanwhile, let's take a look at the economy. Here's a look at the stock market watch at the New York Stock Exchange. According to the numbers there, we can see everything down. The Dow 19, NASDAQ 16, S&P 500 down at 3. Coming up on NEWS2, the Schneider Regional Medical Center announces the graduation of 9 surgical technicians who have completed a 16-week program at the Roy Lester Schneider Hospital. Find out more. Graduation time. 10 students are now proud graduates of the St. Joseph High School. The seniors received their diplomas at the Holy Cross Catholic Church on St. Croix. The val was Estelle Jules and co-val Jana Warren. The salutatorian was Gianna Edney. Now 9 are going to college, 1 to vocational. Awards and scholarships now total $300,000. Father John Mark, the principal, opened the ceremony. Congrats to all the students. Schools attending includes Agnes Scott College, Embry-Riddle Aeronautical, and Florida Memorial LaRouche College and UVI. 36 students are now proud graduates of the Good Hope Country Day School class of 2016. That ceremony was packed with family members and supporters at the Island Center on St. Croix. Good Hope and Country Day merged just 3 years ago. The valedictorian was Julian Dispersio and salutatorian was Aliyah Alec. Now the recipient of the Faculty Award, which is given to annually a student who most closely exemplifies the school's mission, was Lojane Yusuf. All students are headed to college, 1 to the Naval Academy. The guest speaker was lawyer Pamela Colon. Congratulations to all the graduates. Now this weekend it's Antilles. Schneider Regional Medical Center announces the graduation of 9 surgical technicians who have completed a 16-week program at the Roy Lester Schneider Hospital. Surgical techs are members of the medical team that work in operating rooms. Their duties often include tasks such as preparing the operating room for surgery, setting up the surgical instruments and equipment, maintaining sterile conditions, and more. Officials congratulated the team. Staff surgeons and current surgical technicians were also praised for taking the students under their wings to ensure their hands-on training went smoothly. Hospital officials say the locally certified program is the only one like it in the Caribbean. Kudos there. On Friday, June 8th, just make note, from 8 a.m. to noon, electrical service will be interrupted to approximately 15 customers on St. Croix Feeder 2A in Estate Botsburg. The service interruption is necessary, they say, to allow Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority crews to replace a broken primary feeder pole near the entrance to the Buccaneer Hotel. Motorists traversing the areas where work is being performed are asked to follow signs and the flagger's instructions for the safety of crews, pedestrians, and other drivers. The authority apologizes for any inconvenience caused by this service interruption and ensures customers that every effort will be made to restore electrical service as quickly as possible. Virgin Islands Territorial Emergency Management Agency, or VITEMA, they're offering Community Emergency Response Team Training, called CERT, for community organizations territory-wide as part of its ongoing effort to enhance the territory's preparedness for all types of hazards. VITEMA is sponsoring 3 weekends of CERT classes. We have June 24th to the 26th on St. Croix, July 8th to 10th on St. Thomas, and July 29th to the 31st on St. John. Course hours are 6 to 10 p.m. on Fridays, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and on Saturdays, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Sunday. The course is free for participants and certified CERT trainers. The CERT curriculum includes life-saving skills with emphasis on decision-making and rescuer safety. Well, time for our summer camp listing. Play, learn, and explore at St. Croix's Big Island Adventure Camp at AZ Academy. That runs from June 13th to August 19th, so it's pretty early, from 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. from ages 3 to 13 years. Swimming lessons will also be offered coming up as well for those who want to get outdoors and enjoy something a little different. So many options. There will be some on campus, some off campus. On campus, there's theatrical lessons, stilt walking, music lessons, and more. Off campus, there's sailing, hiking, kayaking, jeep tours, archery, overnight camping, and more. The number to call is 340-244-7035 or 340-718-7909. And be sure to tune in as we keep you updated with